Hey, it's Deborah Poneman, founder of Yes to Success seminars, where we share knowledge and tools for you to live your ultimate life and ageless, anti-aging for your brain, your body, and your future. So, not too long ago, one of my students asked me if I really believed that everyday people like him and me could really experience a state of enlightenment or self-realization or liberation? Or is that only for the saints and the sadhus or those who do lifetimes of penance in the Himalayas and who don't live everyday lives? I mean, the question was, can we really experience that state of awareness where we spontaneously live in accord with all the laws of nature, where life is an effortless flow, where we spontaneously take right action, where we actually experience the oneness of all there is, where it's not an intellectual thing that we're all made of the same God, that we're all one, but a direct experience. And I answered that I absolutely believe that we can experience self-realization in this lifetime. Then his next question was, well, is there anything we could do to speed our path towards that experience? Or does it just happen when it's supposed to happen? So here was my answer. I think it's both and. In fact, I call this journey that we're all on the great divine paradox, because I believe that you can speed your progress, but it happens when it's divinely ordained. I believe it's linear, but it's not. That you're going somewhere, but when you get there, you realize you were already there. Now, some teachers say that the more we let go, the sooner we'll be there. And others tell us that it takes austerities and lifetimes of penance and tapas, and not the kind you get at a Spanish restaurant. Tapas in Sanskrit involves solitude and austerity, and it's part of a monastic lifestyle that's believed to lead you to moksha, which is the Sanskrit word for liberation. So once upon a time, I absolutely thought that doing certain things would definitely speed up our journeys to enlightenment. Now I'm not so sure. Personally, I used to think that going on these long meditation retreats, which I did, that I would get there faster, until at the end of one of these 6-month stretches of time where I spent 8, 10, 12 hours a day in meditation, much of it in silence and fasting. And someone asked our teacher, the great master Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, how much longer, how many more years do we have to do these practices before we're self-realized? Well, we thought that he would first praise us for being so devoted to our practice and being the enlightened ones. And his answer would be, oh, just one more 6-month stretch, or just be more committed to your practices. But his answer, much to our surprise, was, a man who has never meditated a day in his life can be walking down the street in New York City and go into a state of enlightenment by inhaling the fumes of a bus as it's passing by. So much for 6 more months. And when you look at some of our great guides, people who to me are quite obviously living in that enlightened state, living in that flow of divine grace, people like Eckhart Tolle, like Byron Katie, or the now deceased Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, or the great hugging saint Amaji, or Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, you cannot find any common thread in their life experience. Some had horrific childhoods. Some were like little saints from day one. Some did arduous penance and spiritual practices for hours and hours a day. And then you look at someone like Byron Katie, founder of Loving What Is and the Work, or author of Loving What Is and founder of the Work. She was an alcoholic and a rageaholic. And as she was raging in a halfway house in solitary confinement, a cockroach walked across her foot, and she went into a permanent state of enlightenment. So the next question, can you speed up your journey? Well, here is what I believe. Again, you can do long practices and penance. You can meditate for an hour or 10 hours a day, But enlightenment, self-realization, will dawn when it's divinely ordained. But what I do believe is this: don't make living in an enlightened state of awareness a destination that you have to get to and forget to live your life, or you will be no better off than when you were, or when you thought that getting a best-selling book or a BMW was going to bring you permanent happiness. Don't simply change the destination of best-selling author to enlightened being. I've seen people do that, and quite frankly, most of them are as miserable as those who are striving for fame and fortune outside themselves, or maybe even more so. But I also say this: there are things that we can do to align ourselves with that unbounded field of pure consciousness. And it seems that when we align ourselves with that field, it accelerates our journey. Because as we do practices like meditation, like yoga asanas, like breath work, like prayer, like reading holy scriptures, or the things that you've learned in these Success Saturdays, like seeing the perfection in all there is, living with an open heart without judgment or expectation, like no longer being attached to outcomes. When we do those things, we feel more and more enlightened. The difference is that the state of enlightenment with the capital E, when you are there, you don't need to try to not be attached. You don't need to try not to judge. You spontaneously live in the field of non-attachment. You spontaneously experience the connectedness with all that is. You spontaneously see the perfection in everything without trying. But here's the thing: even if you religiously do your meditation and your breath and your japa and your fasting, and it doesn't seem to be accelerating your journey to self-realization, and the person inhaling the fumes gets there before you do, I can guarantee you this: the practices will make your life much better than it would have been without them. Much more joyful, much more profound while you're waiting for the cockroach to walk. Do these practices to make your life an effortless flow in the river of grace on your way to the ocean of unbounded love. And there's one other thing, something else that I believe is really important that might accelerate your path, and that is you don't really need to go outside of yourself for answers of how to get there. Every answer you need for every situation that presents itself, well, between you and the knowledge you have innately and the knowledge you can tap into that comes directly to you from God, you pretty much have all the answers covered. For some reason, when we have a problem or we're looking for an answer, we tend to ask everybody's advice. We ask our mom and our partner and our friends and our astrologer and our psychic, but we forget that we can ask ourselves and our God. I don't know why it is that we tend to trust other people's opinions more than we trust our own. I do a practice almost every day that I've shared with you before here on these Success Saturdays, but I think it's worth repeating. And it's a way to see what the God of my understanding wants to share with me. I learned this practice that I call sitting for guidance in the early 1980s. I read about it in one of Napoleon Hill's books. And of course, you know, Napoleon Hill is the author of Think and Grow Rich, one of the best-selling success and prosperity books of all times. And in it, Napoleon Hill suggests that we sit for guidance every morning before we start our day, although he calls it sitting for ideas. He said that he considered God to be his partner in all things. And every morning he would take out a piece of paper, or he would type on his old-fashioned typewriter, because this was 100 years ago, and he would write at the top, "So God, what are you and I going to be creating today?" And then he would just start writing and let the words flow. I personally sit for guidance after my morning meditation, where I feel like the channels of grace are open to me. But I also sit for guidance whenever I feel stuck and I need an answer. I just write my question at the top of the page, and then I do it with the pen and paper. And then I know some people like to do it on their computers, but I just let that pen flow with my answers. It's not a thinking exercise. It's an allowing exercise. It's like taking dictation from God. And when I do my regular morning sitting for guidance session, if I don't have a specific question about my business or my family or something else in my life, I'll write the question at the top of the page. What is the highest good I can do today? Or how can I best serve the planet in this moment? And when you write, try not to censor. Just be an empty vessel and just let the words pour through you onto the paper. I even start my session with a little prayer. I say, I now set aside my ego, doubts, and fears and align my heart with the sacred heart of God. I put a circle of light around me so that only God's love can come through. And then I begin. And that kind of helps you quell the doubts of like, okay, is this really God speaking to me? Yes, you just said your prayer. You know, sometimes people ask me, how can I be sure if it's God or my higher self? How do I know it's not just my mind or my fear? And the answer is simple. If it's God, higher power, source, there will be no negativity, no blame, no doubt, no telling you you're a bad person. The words will be filled with love and compassion and high vibration. They'll just take your breath away or sometimes make you cry or laugh, but you will know that what's coming through is truth. You might want to have a special notebook or a special pen for sitting for guidance. You might want to light a candle before you begin. Your angel guides love to gather around candle flames. Actually, I think next week I'll talk about angels. Ooh, that's a good idea. And then here comes a part where some people get stuck. You need to act on what the guidance tells you. What a novel idea. Don't just say, wow, that was really amazing what I got, and close your book. You've just gotten a message from God. The God of your understanding wants you to be happy, wants you to be fulfilled. The God of your understanding wants you to be enlightened. And she is giving you guidance how to do it. And just so you won't be surprised, when you sit for guidance, it will seldom be the answer you expect. You might ask, should I partner with Dan in opening the restaurant? And God might say, take more walks in the sun. You might ask, should I move to San Diego? And God might say, it's time to call your ex-husband and mend your rift, as there is still love and space for a deep friendship to be rekindled. And it will be what's best for everyone involved, especially the children. If the message seems unusual, just remember that it's a message from God, and God has the 35,000-foot view, and you probably don't. So when you're done listening to this video, take out a piece of paper, and if there is a message from God waiting to come through, give it a space to do so. And if you don't have a question, why not write, what can I do to hasten my path to self-realization? You know, it's a type of meditation, really. One of my favorite quotes, let's see if I could get this right. It's I have no idea who it's from, but it describes why we do this sitting for guidance and why we act on the guidance. And it goes something like this. Meditation is a better form of prayer. In prayer, you are asking for something. In meditation, you're saying, I am ready to listen. So ask for guidance as to what you can do to live in that state of effortless flow. I believed that if there were ever a time where human beings could live a state of enlightened awareness, it is now. I believe that the veil is thinner and time is accelerating, and more light than ever is pouring onto our planet. Yes, we are in more and more light. And I believe that for all of us, a permanent state of enlightenment is our birthright at this time. What do you think? Have a fabulous week. So much love to you, and bye for now.